had 2 folks show up. So I am hopeful that we will have a new contract next year. It won't be as for the same amount of money. I mean, the money's definitely going to go up, but that allows us to get better service for extracurricular activities. We spent over $200,000 in addition to our contracted amount to make that happen last year, so that will go away. So I'm really hopeful that their tune has changed and we're back to the table. So that's the update I wanted to give you.
Just a quick comment on that, and our small buses that we now have on our own fleet, that significantly helped with the transportation? At least with our athletes?
Not really, not yet.
Okay.
I'm sorry, not really, not yet. The athletic transportations, it has helped with some of the small events like wrestling and
Okay.
overnight wrestling, but the size of the teams have not really globbed on, but it is gaining steam and it gave them an option. Golf, wrestling, tennis, they all have that option. And we haven't seen a lot of use of it, but it's going. But as far as field trips
Right.
and co-curricular, other than sports, we're seeing it used. We have one individual that uses it for essentially work-based placements every single day.
Okay.
That wasn't possible, so kids are now accessing getting out. So it is having an impact, but not as much on sports yet.
So as far as sports go, it's going to be more of an internal push. Like you said, the small teams, I get it. A football team is going to be way too big to send people on these. But I mean, tennis team, maybe a swim team, these absolutely should be able to fit the size of those teams.
Agreed, yes.
So that's something we're going to be working on.
Yes, we have been, yes.
The gymnastics team has been using it quite frequently
Okay.
in the past couple months.
I mean, I would certainly think that since we have those vehicles in-house, that'd be something we should say, not even so much as an option as this is what you're going to use, because we have these in-house. Go ahead. Anybody wants to comment, go ahead.
Well, we haven't gotten there yet, and I'll just tell you why.
Okay.
Right now, those are not paid, you never paid to drive those. Those are completely voluntary.
Okay.
So we haven't made them required. People don't have to do them as part of their job. It's a perk to their job, and they
Okay.
can choose to use it. That's where we are now.
Okay.
There's a lot of insurance and red tape things that make that advantageous. If we change that mindset, we would have to get more serious about a professional driver.
Okay. I'm confident we can get to that point since we have the vehicles in-house. Any further comment on that particular issue? Okay. Then let's move on. Let's talk about buildings and grounds.
Sure. So while we're talking about the activity buses, as you can see, they went out 53 times since the last time we met here. So they are very active. Like Tim said, most of it's like job work, placement stuff. There's been a gymnastic team, field trips, stuff like that. And moving on, the theme of my report is kind of reporting how the district handled that negative week that we had. We had temperatures of -22 at my house, -19 here in Keene. That really taxed our buildings. So I have a few things just to share that went on during that week at some of the locations. Starting with the high school, North Campus, one of our 4 furnaces there was really struggling, has been repaired since then. We actually lost the heat entirely in the life skills building. They were moved out of the building and repaired within a day, back to at least keeping it from freezing and then fully functional in 3 days. Certain areas of the building at the high school really struggled to maintain anything above 60 or mid-60s, which is too low. And then there's still a few areas of concern right now. With it being warm out, we should be at 69, 70 in the 600 area there, and we are still at like 67, 68. So we've been focused heavily on the middle schools, where I'll go next, because the middle school really struggled during that cold weather, especially on the second floor and 2 cluster area. Pretty much a combination of some plugged radiant panels that have been dealt with or being dealt with. We have an ERV that, for some reason, that's a rooftop unit that transfers the heat from our hot water loop to the rooms themselves, which is probably 80% of the heat for the room. We're really struggling whether we were having weird power issues, but they kept coming offline. We've had vendors in to assess mechanically and controls wise and got a clean bill of health on all 4 of those Semco units. And we've just been tackling the radiant panels. There's 6 more to go and they've all been touched. So things have recovered really well there. But to complicate things, at the middle school, our wood chip plant also went down right around that same time for a couple days. And so it takes a long time to heat that water up. And the boilers at the high school took over and Jonathan Daniels took over and we were circulating it through the SAU, but the loop temperature did drop down to the 160s. And when you're at that kind of weather, you want it up there at 180, 185 even. And so that didn't help matters. But all of this has been repaired and everything's been put back to normal, we'll say. We have one minor repair that's taking place at the wood chip plant actually Thursday. One of the augers is not functioning, so we are fully up and running. It's just at half feed rate, that's all. So it doesn't really impact it too much because of the weather's been pretty mild the last few days. I do want to jump back to the high school because I jumped over it, but one of the areas that was a big concern was the cafeteria and the kitchen. That really took longer than it should to fix. The RTU itself has a self-resetting freestat protection, and that self-resetting freestat protection didn't self-reset. So it took, because everybody was busy, all the vendors and all the mechanical contractors were so busy during that freeze, it took them a few days to get there. We never did get in the calf any lower than 52, 51, but in the kitchen, they did. So there was some temporary heat put in there, there was some things like that, but it never was comfortable. The staff there really endured a few days of unpleasant working conditions, unfortunately. But we're back to normal now and everything's much better in there. I didn't want to forget that part. I'm trying to read it off the screen here. Jonathan Daniels really didn't have any negative impact with that freeze temperature that we went through, but did have some of the control stuff with the project that need to be ironed out. And we've met a few times and I'm pretty confident that now they've got it all squared away, but there's some front end stuff that they're working on. So as far as the ventilation project goes, we're not considering that completed because of those control things. They're more like graphic stuff, not functionality. There's a unit out here they still have to get running. It needs a motor. And then the supplement heat for the office is actually in today. So they asked if they could start on that pretty soon. So we're going to touch base with the staff and see if they want us to wait till February break or if we can start doing that next week. So I don't see that it'll be too impactful, so they might start next week. And then this room is considered complete, so that's good. Just signage, yeah, just some signage. We have some signage on how the furniture's supposed to be when you're done, because we want this to be moved around and used however you want to use it, but we appreciate it if it get put back exactly like you see it now when you're done, so that it's not up to the custodian here to do that every time someone leaves. So we have some signage that's gonna go in this room and each of the rooms. We have a little signage for under the TV there and outside the hallway in production.
And out in the parking lot.
Oh, and parking lot signage, yeah.
Lights are done.
Yep, lights are done. I saw that when I came in, which is great. Fuller School, we at Fuller and Simons, but Fuller we'll start with. In the past month, we were inspected by the New Hampshire DOE for our, I believe it's every 5 years. It's for our permit to operate. And so we had an inspection, facilities inspection and facility-related policies, and passed no problem with very little follow-up or secondary questions, I should say, and had a good experience there. To update you on the phase 2 stuff, EEI is out for pricing right now. Tim and I actually had a long meeting with them yesterday. Even talked a bit today with the design team with some final, final plans, final prints. We have a few things that Tim and I have to get together with and decide so that we can follow up with the architect this week. But we're down to like finishes and stuff like that, not major changes, just like finish selections and stuff like that. So that's going pretty well. At Franklin School, there really was no negative impact with that negative weather. The systems over there handled really well. And we have some roofing going on there next year, so I've been meeting there quite a bit with some roofing contractors, getting ready for that project. Wheelock was impacted pretty heavily by the negative weather. But what we've come to find out was really based off of the project's programming and the controls. So that cold weather really pulled ahead some of the shortfalls of the programming, in our opinion, with the ERVs and the loop temperatures and all of that. I will say EEI responded really well with the whole team and had this thing ironed out in no time, and have put in semi-permanent fixes, and this is all in programming, nothing mechanical at this point, but we've met with them and went page by page, screen by screen, and identified everything that looked funny or Tim and I didn't like or was missing or needed to be changed, and they're actively fixing that right now for us. The building itself actually has never been more comfortable, warmer, I should say, after they did these changes. I mean, there was a couple rooms that you could tell the unit was running as hard as it could to hit that 69, 70 degree, and sometimes never got there. And now they're too warm. They're 71, 72. And so, and that was with just some programming change, which was a silver lining of the cold weather. I'll put it that way, I guess. Simon School, the same thing as Fuller. We had the New Hampshire DOE there for inspection. They happened to be the two schools up this year, and that went well and passed no problem. So both schools have a new updated permit to operate. I don't have any new energy update projects to kind of inform you, other than all of these projects at Fuller this year. Every, energy conservation and low maintenance products is what we are aiming to do there, of course. But staffing wise, we're unfortunately this Friday is my electrician's last day. He put his notice in, moving on to greener pastures, and I don't want to jinx anything, but I actually interviewed a master electrician today, and so I'm hoping that we'll have a week or two downtime without a staff member. We'll see.
It'll always be good.
It would be good. That's all that I have. That's all that I have, yeah.
So despite all the rumors on social media, nobody froze to death during these couple
Nobody,
of
we
weeks?
found nobody frozen, yes.
That's always a good thing.
I got a question on that. Middle school, I don't need the screen back up. The fans for the music room or the auditorium, I forget which it was.
Music, yeah.
Not you guys, they lost the remote.
Yeah.
Is it possible to wall mount the remote, chain the remote to something? I feel like if you replace the remote, it's just going to get lost within 3 months.
You are probably right. I probably wouldn't go with a remote option, to be honest with you.
I was surprised.
So yeah, and so the cafeteria, the media center, the chorus room, the band room, because the tall cathedral ceilings, they mounted these remotes for the fans. They are run from our backside, our energy management system, when they come on and off, but without the remote, right now it thinks the remote's telling to be off, and we can't force it on.
Right.
So nobody can come up with a remote. So the solution is going to be, I don't want a remote. I want a button.
You got to direct wire that.
Yeah, just a button on a plate. That's what it should be. They did that in the science room. So why they did that, why that was
Right.
designed.
But that'll have to be,
yeah,
that'll have to be a retrofit, rewire it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be too crazy though. I think we can get even an RF,
Right.
wireless remote switch. These are all wireless. There's no
Yeah.
wires behind those light switches. We can put those right on this table if you want. They're
Yeah.
completely wireless now. So something along that lines, mounted to the wall, it can't disappear, is where we're going with it.
Okay.
Okay. Any further? Okay, anything on rental waiver?
I have no rental rate requests, no.
Okay. Anybody have anything else as far as the other goes? No? Okay. If there's no objections, we're adjourned. Is there an objection? No? You good?
He's waiting to shut us down.
Oh, okay.